the Arnold Strongman Classic, the holy grail of strongman competition. Athletes must will themselves past their competitors and the implements. 10 men, 5 grueling challenges. Spirits will break, records will fall, all to find the strongest man on earth. The 2019 Arnold Strongman Classic, next. Columbus, Ohio is the capital of the fitness world. Welcome inside the Greater Columbus Convention Center, everybody. I'm Sean Woodland alongside Dr. Bill Crawford. We are through 3 events at the 2019 Arnold Strongman Classic. 2 remain. Up first, the Austrian Oak, a classic strongman test these men have all faced before. Everyone, though, trying to find a way to slow down the man from Iceland known as the Mountain. He is your overall leader. Hafthor Bjornsson has been absolutely dominant. Bjornsson is the defending champion, and he won the first 2 events and started off setting the elephant bar deadlift world record in event number 1. He had a lift of 1,045 pounds. Then in event 2, he turned right around, won the Husafell stone carry as he lugged that 409-pound stone more than 218 feet. And Bill, right now, though, it looks like Martins Licis is the only man who has a chance of catching the mountain.
Yes, Sean, Martins had a top 5 finish in the first 2 events. Martins then wins the 3rd event by combining his preparation and sheer force of will to conquer the wheel of pain. This consistent performance should have him high in the standings overall.
And right now, Licis is all by himself in second place as Hafthor Bjornsson has 29 of a possible 30 points. Brian Shaw, who finished 2nd overall last year, he's in 7th place right now and dealing with a hamstring injury. And speaking of injuries, Alexi Novikov is being checked by the medical staff after he got banged up during the Wheel of Pain. He will not be participating in the next event, and that event is the Austrian Oak, as the athletes will have 90 seconds to lift it over their heads as many times as they can. That log weighs 430 pounds, and Bill, there is a ton of technique involved with this.
Yes, Sean, there are 2 keys to success. First, an efficient lift to the chest, using hip drive to quickly lift the log to the shoulders. Then the second key to success is pushing the log up and back. The hands are in front of the face, so just pushing upwards will not help. You have to also push back to successfully get the log over your head. This is a punishing event, and there is no room for error.
Poland's Mateusz Kieliszkowski is ready for his turn on the Austrian Oak. Right now he's in 8th place overall, but looking to make a move in this event. And this does play to his strengths. He's not known as a good deadlifter. He took 8th in the elephant bar deadlift. He hit a personal best of 871 pounds. He improved in the Husafell stone carry. He took 5th place in that event. And then finally on the Wheel of Pain, he took 7th, pushing it 101 feet, 6 inches. But now we're starting to get into events that really favor his skill set. And this is the first attempt for Kieliszkowski. He has 90 seconds to get as many as he can. And 1 rep.
Excellent.
For Mateusz Kieliszkowski.
This event and the next event will find him higher on the leaderboard because they highlight his raw strength and his tremendous athletic ability.
Here's attempt number 2 now. Mateusz Kieliszkowski out of Poland.
His upper body legendary. And he's really muscling it up.
Elbows are forward, up and back.
And that'll be 2.
With this awkward and massive implement, he has to dig deep to get additional reps. As you get deeper into the reps, unfortunately, your abdominal muscles start to weaken and the log wants to fall forward after you stand up with it.
30 seconds
This is when the strongman has to completely commit.
Third attempt for Kieliszkowski. Oh, and the crowd was trying to will that thing over his head, but Kieliszkowski will exit with 2 good reps, and he is the early leader.
2 tremendous repetitions. He gets the log quickly and efficiently up to his chest and then drives it up and back over his head. Then he gets deeper into the repetitions, and he still has enough technique and power to get the log over his head. He just couldn't garner that 3rd repetition to separate himself on the leaderboard.
Mateusz Kieliszkowski with 2 good reps, and that is the early mark to beat. But coming up, the Siberian Force and a former champion step up to the Austrian Oak when we return to the 2019 Arnold Strongman Classic.
The 2019 Arnold Strongman Classic on CBS Sports Network is sponsored by Rogue, strength and conditioning equipment that's built to last.
Welcome back to the 2019 Arnold Strongman Classic. I'm Sean Woodland alongside Dr. Bill Crawford. The athletes arrived earlier in the day at the Greater Columbus Convention Center in order to get briefed on the day's events. And these guys certainly draw a crowd wherever they go. Brian Shaw is a crowd favorite here, and he is up next on the Austrian Oak. He has not had the competition he had hoped for. Currently 7th place overall after 3 events. He has won this competition 3 times, and he finished 2nd last year. He had hoped to reclaim his title here in 2019, but things have not gone according to plan. Shaw started off well in the elephant bar deadlift. He took 2nd place at the lift of 1,021 pounds, but it came at a price. He injured his left hamstring, and that has really affected him the rest of the competition.
This hamstring injury has made walking with the Husafell stone much more difficult. And then moving on to the wheel of pain, it's almost impossible to have leg drive with the hamstring injury.
He had back-to-back 8th place finishes in the Husafell stone carry and then again in the wheel of pain. And Brian Shaw has finished 1st or 2nd 7 of the last 8 years here, and he's never finished lower than 5th. That was his first ever appearance at the Arnold Strongman Classic back in 2010.
Brian prepares for competitions very thoroughly, and especially the Arnold. Mentally, this is very difficult for him to overcome after all that preparation and time.
First attempt for Brian Shaw. Mateusz Kieliszkowski is your early leader with 2 complete repetitions. And 1 down, yes, for Brian Shaw. In a lift like this, how much of a factor is your hamstring?
Well, you have to be able to stabilize yourself and to push your hips forward and lock yourself under a weight. The hamstring glute mechanism is very important. You can't flex your hips forward if you've got a high hamstring issue, typically.
Inside a minute now for Brian Shaw. 2nd attempt. The crowd trying to help out Brian Shaw, and he will not be able to lock that one out. And you can tell the leg is bothering him a little bit there. He has time for 1 more attempt.
Brian Shaw's gonna go again. This is insane. 15 seconds. Let's go. Come on.
He's going to have to hurry.
The heart of the champion.
Brian Shaw, 8 seconds to clear this one.
It will not happen for Brian Shaw as you can tell how much he's hurting. Brian Shaw with 1 rep, and Bill, you have to wonder how many times he could have gotten that thing overhead if he was 100%.
Yes, I would expect Brian to have more repetitions without this injury, but he's having so much difficulty driving this log overhead and then stabilizing his legs and his body underneath the log after it gets over his head.
Mikhail Shivlyakov out of Russia. He is up next, currently 5th place overall. Shivlyakov took 3rd at the Arnold Strongman Classic in 2018. That's his best career finish. He started off this competition pretty well. He hit 974 pounds on the elephant bar deadlift. That was good enough for a tie for 3rd place, but then he started to slide down the leaderboard. He took 5th place in the Husafell stone carry, and then in event 3, he was 7th after pushing the Wheel of Pain 103 feet. Shivlyakov needs to come up with a strong performance on the Austrian Oak if he wants to work his way back up the standings, as Mateusz Kieliszkowski still has the top score of 2 reps.
He needs this efficient lift to the chest and then push back and up to complete the lift with the log. Efficient to the chest.
And the press is good as Magnus Magnuson gives him the signal. 1 down from Mikhail Shivlyakov, now the 3rd man to be able to lift that over his head.
Get a reset. He's got over a minute left.
He's going to take his time, reset just a bit. Notice how most of these lifters, these strongmen, are using lifting shoes with that heel on them. And the reason for that is when you push back with that implement, it allows you to lean back onto your heels and maintain that position. Plus, it's a much more solid base to work from.
And that may not seem like a lot, but when you're dealing with something this heavy, I mean, just millimeters in positioning can make a difference.
Yes, and that's exactly it. It's that those tiny little details that make or break attempts at this level.
2nd attempt for Mikhail Shivlyakov.
Look at the match, Kieliszkowski.
He gets this, he would tie for the lead. Lift number 2 is good, so Mikhail Shivlyakov is going to call it quits, and he will tie Mateusz Kieliszkowski for the lead. 2 good reps for the Siberian force.
He had an explosive lift to his chest. He drives the weight up and back over his head, but then starts to fall backwards. And those lifting shoes really made the difference, as he had that heel to rely on to stop that backward momentum.
2 good reps for Mikhail Shivlyakov. Ryan Shaw gets 1. Event number 4 of the 2019 Arnold Strongman Classic continues. Coming up, the Dragon takes on the Austrian Oak.
When I was just a kid, I would go to my grandparents' farm in Latvia. My grandfather was a stonemason and lifted all these giant rocks. So I would help him move them to help him build sculptures out of them. I was essentially doing strongman on a farm already as a kid growing up. So I got most of my training back then.
Crush your enemies. See them driven before you and hear the lamentations of the women. And Martins Licis certainly crushed event 3, the Wheel of Pain, picking up his first career win at the Arnold Strongman Classic in the process, as he is getting set for his shot at the Austrian Oak, the 4th of 5 events here in Columbus, Ohio. And Licis has built momentum throughout this competition. He had his worst finish in the opening event, elephant bar deadlift. He lifted 970 pounds. That was good for 5th place. Then he took 4th in the Husafell stone carry. And then finally, the Wheel of Pain, his best performance so far, as he just edges out Hafthor Bjornsson. And that put Licis all by himself in 2nd place overall with just 2 events left. And Bill, the future may be now for Martins Licis.
Yes, Martins has a rare ability. A great strongman comes on with better performances later in the competition, and Martins has shown that, certainly. He always has great preparation, but he's mentally very, very strong. And that bodes well for him at this Arnold Strongman Classic.
Licis is set to take on the Austrian Oak right now, 6 points back of Hafthor Bjornsson for the overall lead. So Licis needs to find a way to win this event if he wants to gain ground on the mountain.
He's in the hunt. He's created a cold following. The clock is starting.
He gets right to work. First attempt for Licis. And he will lock it out. And now sits in a tie for second place with Brian Shaw in this event. Right to work on attempt number 2.
All right, let's go, guys, get behind it.
And Licis will hit that one and is now tied for the lead with Mateusz Kieliszkowski and Mikhail Shivlyakov with 2 successful reps, and he still has plenty of time.
He wants to dig down and get this 3rd rep. This would definitely separate him from the competition.
Looking to keep the pressure on Hafthor Bjornsson. Martins Licis just 6 points back of Bjornsson in the overall standings coming into this event. 1 event remains after this. 3rd attempt for the Dragon.
Quickly up to the chest.
Licis out of gas, but does tie for the best mark so far with 2 successful reps.
The Dragon is like a wild, unstoppable force, continuing to build pressure later in the competition. Great leg drive, pushing up and back to lock this out overhead. Notice the strain in his arms after he gets the log overhead. In this 3rd attempt, his abdominal muscles start to weaken, and he just can't get enough drive into the log to get it overhead.
We have a 3-way tie for first. 2 reps on the Austrian Oak, still the top mark. But overall leader Hafthor Bjornsson is coming up. The conclusion of event 4 of the 2019 Arnold Strongman Classic next.
The 2019 Arnold Strongman Classic on CBS Sports Network is sponsored by Rogue. Strength and conditioning equipment that's built to last.
The 430-pound Austrian Oak. So far, it has proven to be a worthy challenge for the strongest men on the planet. It's the 4th of 5 events at the 2019 Arnold Strongman Classic here in Columbus, Ohio. I'm Sean Woodland with Dr. Bill Crawford. 3 men have lifted this implement twice. 3 athletes failed to lift it once as a tiebreak. Those 3 got to attempt a 385-pound log. Jerry Pridgett was one of them, and he wasn't 100% coming into the competition, and it has showed. Mateusz Kieliszkowski was able to complete 2 repetitions on that 385-pound log. This is his 2nd career appearance at the Arnold Strongman Classic. Estonia's Rano Heinla unable to lift the Austrian Oak, but able to lift that 385-pound log twice to match Mateusz Kieliszkowski. Hafthor Bjornsson is the final man up. He has won 2 of the 3 events so far, and he was 6 inches shy of beating Martins Licis in the prior event. He took 2nd in the Wheel of Pain.
A very dominant performance. Rarely has anyone had such a great start with 2 firsts and a 2nd the first 3 events. This could be the greatest performance in Arnold Strongman Classic history. Early in his career, Hafthor struggled with overhead lifting, and he has solved that problem. He's a terrific overhead presser now.
430 pounds, 195 kilos. And that is easy for Hafthor Bjornsson. 1 successful rep is in. Hafthor, one of the few athletes in the field who actually weighs more than the log.
But his height makes it a little more difficult to press something overhead as it has to travel a greater distance.
Just needs 1 more to tie himself with the 3 other athletes who have completed 2 repetitions.
Clearing his head a little bit there.
The Mountain asks for some help from the crowd, and they will gladly give it to him on attempt number 2.
Help the Mountain out here, folks.
Bjornsson locks that out, and he has tied for the lead. And he has more time left on the clock if he wants to make another attempt.
He needs this attempt, and he'll basically lock down the competition overall.
He wants it. 20 seconds. Give it to him. 20 seconds. He can seal the deal.
3rd attempt for the Mountain.
Plenty of time.
No problem to the chest. And Bjornsson just cannot get under it. 2 reps, though, will tie him with 3 other men. But after that first rep, Bill, it looked like he might win this thing outright.
He uses very little leg drive to get that implement overhead. And then on his second repetition, he appears to struggle a little bit more, having to use extra effort to gain control of the log as it's overhead. See the strain in his face, but still a terrific effort.
Final results for event 4, the Austrian Oak, and it's a 4-way tie for first place between Hafthor Bjornsson, Martins Licis, Mikhail Shivlyakov, and Mateusz Kieliszkowski. Brian Shaw gets 1 rep, he'll take 5th. Belshock and Heinle, they get 2 reps on the lighter log, with Jerry Pritchett getting just 1. Overall standings after 4 events, Hafthor Bjornsson with a 6-point lead over Martins Licis. Mikhail Shivlyakov moves into 3rd place. Mateusz Kieliszkowski gains ground as well. He goes from 8th up to 5th. But things are close. 3.5 points separate 4th from 8th. 4 events are down at the Arnold Strongman Classic. 1 remains. 4 men press the Austrian Oak twice. Hafthor Bjornsson is one of them, and he is on the verge of winning his 2nd straight Arnold Strongman Classic. For Dr. Bill Crawford and our entire crew, I'm Sean Woodland. This has been a presentation of CBS Sports Network, the 24-hour home of CBS Sports.